Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel, sponsored by Connors and Ferris, Jenna Cottrell, Dan Fates, Mike Catalana, not here once again, but we're just continuing to hold down the fort. Bills practice today. It's the first practice since the Bills have gotten to it. We will like, we will comment, and we will subscribe. And again, we are approaching 25,000 subscribers.
Yeah, which is cool.
So don't do this for Jenna. Don't do it for me. Do it for yourself. Smash that subscribe button. Don't just click it. Don't just do it for yourself. Do it for yourself. Subscribe, please. Take a moment. Okay. All right. So the video here, Jenna, we were here at practice.
Yeah.
53-man roster set for quote unquote now.
Yes.
At practice, pretty laid back practice. Obviously, there were no practice squad players yet. We're recording this video at 11:57, so we don't know the waiver moves as of
right now,
the recording of this video. But what was maybe one of the first things, because we saw some players back today, what was maybe one of the guys that stood out to you?
I think just in terms of what we're talking about practice-wise, it now shifts into that regular season mode. And we've talked about training camp in the summer and in Rochester being here, but now you kind of saw that shift into, all right, this is the players. We were in the locker room today. We got to kind of have that feel of practice and just kind of that okay.
Football's close.
Football is close. The regular season, it's time to get down to brass tacks, or I don't even know what that really means, but I will say, for me, I thought it was a good sign. Connor McGovern out there today. He was practicing. He did have a brace on his knee, but that was a guy that we really had question marks about, considering we didn't know his status in terms of how big of an injury this would be. Would it be long-term? All of these things. So I think that's important because the Bills, obviously, having that depth on the offensive line is really important, and just knowing that McGovern seems to be in the right direction, that is huge.
I think when we were here last Thursday and Sean said that he didn't know where he was, and they were that was a bad sign. I think I was
concerning.
That like you don't even know if it's day to day, it's week to week, like some of those other things. So that was a good sign to see. He did have a brace on, but again, working back with the offensive line. Another guy that was back. Terrell Bernard.
Yeah, he had the hamstring injury before. He said he was out there today. You could tell how happy he was to be back to practicing. I mean, it's tough for a guy when, he's in a competition battle and you get sidelined. You're not able to play in some of those preseason games, and he's been dealing with a hamstring injury, soft tissue kind of injury. Those can be tough, but he says, now it's the ramp-up portion of things. And while he would love to have been out there, it feels good for him to be back on the practice field. But if you're the Bills, You're I don't want to say you're having a sigh of relief right now, but the fact that he's back and able to be out on the field, getting in those reps, I think that gives you a little bit, I don't want to say confidence, but a little bit of peace of mind, I would say.
I agree. I think he was the player that they were hoping would step up in this middle linebacker competition. He also talked about how it's tougher mentally to not be able to practice and run around when you're battling as a second-year player for a starting job. So it was great to see him back. He says that he's able to do everything. He says he is fully back. Those are good signs.
Yeah.
One thing that stood out to me was that he talked about how he last year played all three positions. So he learned all three of the linebacker spots, which I thought was interesting in the sense of quarterback of the defense. Like, you got to know everything.
Yeah.
So I thought it was telling to know that, hey, this is a guy that I think they were trying to last year prepare for this opportunity. Again, I thought Terrell Dodson played better at the end of training camp and in the final preseason game. Is it enough to hold off Bernard heading into the season? We'll see. There still is 12, 13 days before we open up the season in the Meadowlands.
Yeah.
But just the fact of, I still think Dodson's got the leg up, but I think Bernard could close that gap before week 1.
I agree with you. I feel like they saw the upside from Bernard early on in terms of they wanted him to be the guy. Obviously, the injury, though, that was tough. I mean, him being on the sidelines, not being able to be out on the field. You saw Tyrell Dodson, get all these reps and all these things. But I think that it's funny, too, because when we were interviewing Terrell Bernard, Tyrell Dodson walks by and he's like, you guys are trying to pit us against one another, like joking.
Bernard said that Dodson's his best friend on the team.
Yeah, and that's got to be tough because you are competing with one another. But he also said, look, that's just the reality of this football team. If I'm the Bills, I'm thinking, okay, we at least have a full look in terms of we have Dodson back, or we have
It's
so hard.
Tough.
It's so hard. You have Terrell Bernard back on the field. Will he be able to feel and be able to catch up
Yeah.
That we don't know, but at this point, at least you have him out there practicing before the start of the regular season.
Dodson's the horse in front. Does he have a big enough lead to hold off Bernard?
They're coming down the stretch.
Exactly. Another guy on defense that we got to – actually, let's go to the offense for another guy that's coming back. If we check off all the injuries, we saw Connor McGovern getting back, Terrell Bernard getting back. Khalil Shakir was back out there. I think that was a good sign to see. And I think everybody was so quick to have some speculation that how bad's the injury? Could he go on IR? All of these things.
Yeah.
And does that open up a spot for Andy Isabella? All of these things. I thought Shakir looked great today. It was nice to see him back.
Yeah.
And a reminder of, I think he's the true number 2 slot guy. I think they want him to be that guy that can fill in all the spots. It was kind of like what Gabe was doing his first 2 years, can play in the slot, can play outside if need be. He still is a guy, to me, that looks comfortable running routes. I know he had that drop, like in the preseason. I think so many people are remember that. Right before that, he had a great catch. Like this is kind of, he's a young player. It's consistency that you're looking for. But I thought it was really nice to see Shakir back to kind of round out that wide receiver room, because I think he's, again, a top 5 wide receiver and going to be the ultimate backup.
I agree, and I think when people were talking about him going on IR, I think people sometimes forget that means you would be out for the entirety of the season. He's a younger guy. Consistency is the biggest question mark that we all have about him. But the only way you can really see is a bigger sample size, what he is able to do. I agree with you. I think he's had some nice moments. He's had some puzzling drops. I feel like what I've seen from him, though, is the ability to kind of bounce back. And I know I compared it to an early rookie year of Dawson Knox, where you saw him make some incredible catches, and then you wanted him to show that consistency. We've seen Knox be able to have that. Can Khalil Shakir add that? I believe that he can, and I think you're going to have him be that guy. He can get some more experience, and that's really what it is, time on task and just having it be in this environment.
As of right now, the Bills had 5 wide receivers practicing today, Diggs, Gabe, Sherfield, and then the 2 slot guys with Deontay Hardy and Shakir. I'm sure they will add to the practice squad and maybe even another guy to the 53-man roster as more moves shake out. For guys that did make the team, we got to talk to some of them today. One of them mostly is Kingsley Jonathan, the defensive end from Syracuse. Great story. We got to talk to him about what yesterday was like for him.
And I asked him, I was like, because I know me, you're waiting to see if you make the roster. I would be just refreshing my phone. It would be right here. Like, I would just all day. And he talked about how, like, he had his phone, he refreshed it a couple times, but he was like, you don't want to hear anything. No news is good news.
That's the thing. You don't get called to tell you that you made the 53.
Yeah.
It's hoping that your phone doesn't ring up until 4 o'clock. So he talked about how that, eventually he tried to put his phone away and not think about it. Easier said than done. But he joked that when he walked in today, we joked, does the key card still work?
Yeah.
Were you nervous that it wouldn't work? And he goes, I walked in behind somebody that their key card worked, so I got in after him.
I do love that. I think of the Jets player trying to get
Jamal
it.
Adams.
Yeah. It was like, ooh, tough day. But I will say, I think it's. You had the great question. I'm going to pump you up for a second. The great question of, yes, it's so exciting you make the roster, but then the reality of today of being like, oh well, crap, like I'm here to prove it.
Yep.
And I think he handled it really well, talking about like, you have to come to work every day. You have to be prepared. Like, I made the roster today, but what will the next week bring? All those things.
And that's the fine line of continuing to do what got you on the 53-man roster. You're trying to prove that you belong, but then once you've kind of proven it, you kind of continue to have to prove it, but you don't want to change it and start to force more. So, look, I think he's going to have a shot. I really think he's going to have a shot with Von out for the first, like we said, 4 to 5 games. I think he's going to get a shot, and he has flashed. He played well at the end of last season. It's nice to see him get back on the 53-man right off the start. So I really liked seeing that, as well as some of the offensive linemen. They did a trio interview.
I love that.
All 3 of them. Osiris Torrance, Alex Anderson, and Vandemark.
Yeah.
All 3 of them wanted to talk to them, and they just did the interview
all together.
Which
usually when we do an interview, it's one player, and then it's called a scrum. All the rest of the reporters will come in. It reminded me of like when we're doing a story and we have to interview children, and all the kids want to be together. I loved it. I thought it was fun. Talking. Obviously, Osiris Torrance, he was going to make the team.
He was going to make the team.
But those other guys, what that moment was like, and I just think it's it's both a celebration, but it's also the reality of there is still so much work to do. And really quick, going back to Kingsley Jonathan, Eric Washington, I asked him last week or a couple weeks ago, like, who is a guy, we talk about all these big name players. Who is a guy that's really stood out to you and kind of been someone that you maybe didn't expect, but it's really in your mind shown up and showed out for you? And he said it was Kingsley Jonathan. So I'm not shocked that he made the roster, but I think so many of these numbers, and we talk about it and the decisions that are made, it's really hard. There are so many talented players here that it's hard to make the roster. And I think it's a testament to the work that he's put in. And I agree with you. I think he's absolutely going to get an opportunity to show what he can out on the field.
It's tough to get your foot in the door, right?
Absolutely.
Like you're Kingsley Jonathan. Like, you're not a draft pick. You're not a well-known name to come in here. So you really have to go that extra mile to break that door in to get that step. So those are all the players. Again, some not so noticeable players, things like that, making the team that maybe we didn't know about.
Well, it's the guys that we don't talk about as much, right? And they're the guys that round out the roster.
We're not talking about a whole lot of offensive linemen for the most part.
Yeah, exactly. It adds depth, all these things. These are the guys that, have to work their tails off to make the team. So, and it's a cool moment.
Yes. And now we will end on a high note. Do the Bills have a dancing problem? Is Stefon Diggs unhappy in Buffalo? Listen, it's funny. How was that practice? We were at practice today.
I was here.
Well, Jenna went to go get a new outfit.
Okay, it was cold. It
Jenna
was cold.
Prepared.
I stand by it.
Jenna wasn't prepared.
I wasn't. I got you a coffee, though.
You did. That was great. Stefon Diggs continues to be on another level.
Yeah.
If you want to look over at the sights and sounds from today's practice, over on the feed, different playlist, Steph was making one-handed catches. He was dancing. He was singing. Like, he was so into it. And it just makes me laugh every time somebody says that he's unhappy in Buffalo, that he doesn't want to be here. It's like, all those people in the national media that are saying that, come to practice. I have never seen somebody in the national media come to a practice and say, like even when I think about the guys that come from the NFL Network, that come to do training camp.
Yeah.
They come to training camp, like Rappaport and some of these other guys.
Jeremy Fowler, some of the guys from...
Those aren't the ones that say anything.
No, I agree.
About him being unhappy. What it is people that sit in a studio in L.A. or somewhere, and they're like, oh, he's unhappy because I heard this. Like, Stefon Diggs is not unhappy. You can see the video over on Sights and Sounds. You can see it on my Twitter. Like, he is 100% in, and I just feel like Catherine Fitzgerald of The Athletic caught up with Diggs after practice today.
Yeah.
They will announce the captain soon. Mm-hmm. Diggs says he's once again a captain, and he says this one means more than the previous 3 years.
That's cool.
Again, bad teammate, doesn't want to be here, unhappy. Out in here, in this building at One Bills Drive, he is beloved, and he is a leader by far of this team.
I feel like news is always slow to get out of Buffalo.
Very.
It has to catch up. Also, quick sidebar. This is why, when we were talking about the channel, I wanted to do this channel, because we are here every day. We are here so much that it's like we see the stuff that maybe the national reporters don't get to see because they're not here, and that's their job. They have their job to do. We have our job to do. But Diggs has been on another level this season. I think he brings that attention to detail. He's always had that, but I feel like, and we've talked about this so much, it's ramped up even another level.
Yep.
And I mean, that's why sometimes people, you might not like what we have to say, but we are here. You might not like what Dan has to say, but we are here. We are watching practice. We are here every day. We are giving you these updates. So, just keep that in mind, because I think that's why we're able to offer a look at stuff that maybe other people don't get to see in terms of the other media members.
This is a perfect segue as we wrap up this video. Tomorrow, meaning Thursday, there will be the video of our Buffalo Plus live event that we did at Three Heads Brewery. Last week, tons of fun. Lots of people got to be out there. We cut it up into a podcast that can now fit on the YouTube channel, so be sure to check that out tomorrow. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was cool.
Brandon Beans talks at 4 o'clock today. I'm sure we will hear more about waivers, and my phone buzzed. I didn't know if that was something.
Nope, Mike Catalana retweeted.
Aaron Wilson reporting that the Bills are signing Andy Isabella to the practice squad per league source, which is kind of what we
that's expected.
Mostly
that's
expected.
That's not breaking news.
No. So, Bean will talk. Tomorrow's another video. We will be up here at practice once again tomorrow.
Yeah. I'll be better prepared.
Yes. In the meantime, Like, comment, subscribe.
Yes.
Subscribe.
Tell a friend.
Subscribe.
Too, if you think
And
they would enjoy
and
our
then
coverage.
you can subscribe.
Okay, also some people ask, like, why do we say subscribe so much? The algorithm, by having more people subscribe, that grows our base, that grows recommendations for other people.
Monetization.
That might be, and also, yeah, it helps us make money. So.
And our bosses like it too. So
yeah.
Subscribe. Subscribe.
Okay, all
Click
right.
it. All right.
If you enjoy our content, though.
If you've waited this long, I think you enjoy the content.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I just always like to give
All right.
people, subscribe if you enjoy our coverage.
Yes. All right.
I don't want to.
We'll see you tomorrow. Actually, we'll see you multiple times tomorrow because we're going to have 2 videos coming out tomorrow.
Yes.
Sights and Sounds also up. We appreciate it as always. For Jenna, I'm Dan. Thanks for watching the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel, sponsored by
Connors and Ferris. Thank you.